Recording is on.
Here we go. All right. Welcome here to Wallet Scrutiny call number 3, November 29. Mo, why don't you let us know what we're talking about today?
Should let us know what we're talking about. Sure, I will. Christoph has been exceptionally helpful with kind of, offering to jump on and helping us with that with some design guidelines and designs redesigning. Him and I had a quick call last week, and we just kind of roughly thought about a few buckets um, in the whole redesign process. So we had a bit of a conversation about that, and yeah, we'll very briefly just maybe walk you through. I'll very briefly walk you through those 3 buckets, and then maybe Christoph can take over after that. I just want to go to GitHub quickly. Let me just open this link. Yeah, so we have I'll share this with you here. I'll go ahead and share my screen. We have a GitHub collaboration issue open where we're basically just documenting the entire process. So Christoph basically came up with that there's these 3 big buckets that we can kind of separate the redesign process into. That would be the branding, maybe having a look at that again, having a look again at the web design itself, and the information design here, he's referring to the actual categories. So let me go back to the grading system. So it's basically the 3 buckets we're looking at is the branding, the web design, and the grading system. And yeah, we'll try to dive into each of those 3 topics in the redesign process. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll leave it over to you, Christoph.
Yeah, well, let's gather some more thoughts here. What else would you like to talk about? Any other topics anyone wants to suggest for the call?
Sounds good to me as a starting point.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
And these, these 3 buckets, they really just came out of trying to find a way that we can organize this type of work. And I think we discussed that somewhere in Discord or on GitHub or elsewhere. And there's some stuff like branding and some usability things that can be done pretty much separately. But as we've seen, discussing and potentially making any changes to the grading or that process is much more involved, much bigger decisions, and that might take a long time. So maybe we can split things up into like the smaller things that can be more easily taken care of. For something like branding, maybe we can open up that to the whole community, the design community, if anyone wants to do kind of a branding exercise. And then maybe the grading and some of the workflow things, those are maybe more stay more close to the wallet scrutiny project team, because that's much harder for anyone on the outside to give input to on as well. From a user perspective, anyone in the outside, I think they can give very good feedback on the website, but with the process that happens in the background is obviously much more difficult, especially for people who are not security researchers like me. So there's that. That's where those kind of 3 buckets came from. So we're going to have a process to go through in a way. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, cool.
And then, so I shared 2 things. I'm curious if anyone's seen them. You can see them in my background here as well. One of them was this exploration of the grading system. And that came from my experience of just using the site and seeing, looking at wallets. And I'm like, I don't totally understand what's going on. And then reading through the whole methodology page, and then at the end having like a big, reveal that's like, oh, this is a linear process. And you guys start on one spot and you stop when something fails, and then you don't check out the other ones. So if I see one thing, that means I have to assume that some part is skipped and the other ones actually apply. So it took me a whole while to figure that out, and then I would just try to come up with potentially a way that to communicate this whole process in line a little bit more clearly. So as a user, I would see the scale, and I see where the wallet this wallet would land, and then I could hover it and just kind of see, what. And that was just after my first glance. And then the second one was a little bit. I tried to dig a little bit deeper, and maybe you've seen that video that I recorded. Tried to look at the homepage, at the filtering, and then also some of the display of these test results and how they could be adjusted. Just trying to display things that would make sense to me after looking through this. But those are all just a lot of different ideas. I think some of you already gave feedback. I'm not familiar with everyone's username on Discord. So if you'd like, let me know if you've seen these already, if you'd like to dig a little bit deeper. I don't want to repeat anything that everyone already knows.
Hey, Carp Lewis, thanks for joining in on the call.
Yeah, this is sorry, first time I saw those, but the scale idea I think is we've approached it a few times just in the channel, and I'm T-Stone on the Discord, by the way. But I think I like it personally, and I'm not as technical as Leo, and a lot of these tests I know are kind of binary in nature, like, reproducible or not, but then there's always these nuances. So I'd love to get his thoughts on this too, but I think it makes sense for a lot of edge cases have come up where, it's not technically reproducible, but the part that isn't is benign. It's just like a formatting thing or a timestamp that doesn't match the code and it doesn't actually affect the security. So I think the scale can kind of reflect a lot of that nuance, as opposed to having a yes or no, which can, be inflammatory with a lot of wallet providers a lot of the time. Yeah, Leo, curious your thoughts on this.
Yeah, the problem is that the linearity comes from both because we have limited resources. Yeah, of course, I would love to have filters by features and does it support the latest LN URL and whatever, but we have to get to decide, are you verifiably self-custodial? And we don't even get to the point where where we verify the code. We only get to the point where we say it would be verifiable, which gets confused with it was verified. Yeah. So the nuance is not really representable in the scale. So as I understood Christoph, he would just translate the the open sourceness into a greener scale than the closed source one. So it would just show, okay, if we qualify it as closed source, then at least it is self-custodial, or so the provider claims. Yeah, but the whole project is about verifiability, and I have this theory that as custodial products get more scrutiny than non-custodial projects, the easiest way to scam a lot of people is to pretend they would be self-custodial, and to even have the wallet open source. Somebody has the microphone open. I don't know. Kids, kids noise. Yeah. So this this hypothetical provider, and there is a certain percentage of psychopaths in the world, could just do everything apparently correct and lure many people into a product that looks good or greener in such a scale, than another project. Yeah, but the users would maybe be better off using a custodial regulated exchange, yeah, if they themselves are, for example, a company or somebody who is anyway required to report all the funds that go through that wallet, and so yeah, there is a nuance, and somebody might maybe want to use a custodial service, and it would be great if we could look into which are more transparent about their reserves or something like that. But this whole project, Wall Scrutiny, was aimed at helping with self custody. And as soon as we're talking about self custody, then I want to have a wallet that doesn't leak my coins, and there is only so much we can do to verify that. So if you want to get there, then everything that is not transparent or that leaves room for the provider to still empty all the wallets at the press of a button is just not acceptable, and it's not slightly green. Yeah. So that's why I had green red coding.
Um, I think that this design idea that Christoph initiated, I think that when we look at it, it's the I guess the aim of it is coming from the end user perspective. Really trying to simplify that information for the end user, and I guess that might be one of the big challenges in presenting the information. And maybe we just need to figure that out, and maybe just try to simplify it, because we're a little bit on the technical side of things. We have to imagine that I was looking at your Reddit. I think there's a Reddit with reviews, and one of the people jumped on Reddit and they said, I'm a non-tech person looking at the reviews. So we would have to kind of maybe put ourselves in the user shoes and try to think of, well, how can we make this whole grading system as easy to understand for them as possible in a visual way. And I think maybe that's a little bit of the goal of what this kind of design. But it seems like it's a design challenge. And I was thinking, I'm going to share my screen because I was actually looking at your. I went over to your Reddit, and I saw that initially with Reddit, this was a post that was launched 6 months ago. The goal to find wallets could steal all. The initial release was of 36 apps. It seems initially they were almost like these 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of main categories: the reproducible, the non-verifiable, and the closed source. And then now when I go to the kind of the new sort of categorization system, it seems that there's a lot more of these categories. And I guess the challenge
Oh,
is figuring out. Sorry, yeah.
in the Reddit post, I did not list like, and there's 20 wallets we haven't reviewed yet, and there's 50 that are too small to review yet. And so these other verdicts, or many of those other verdicts did exist, and many of them are new, like back then, obfuscated, build error. Build error was not distinguished from, like the unreproducible was like, I didn't distinguish if I failed to compile it, or if otherwise the compile result looked different. So yeah, many of the verdicts are new, but in this post, when I try to communicate it on Twitter, I often aggregate some of the categories. Like I did a talk at Adopting Bitcoin, where
Mhm.
I condensed it to 7 things to look out for when you choose a wallet. And so, yeah, there is a lot of nuance, and some of the nuance I try to uh, give extra verdicts for, because
Mm-hmm.
the verdict allows me to distinguish, hey, you can at least compile it yourself if you don't trust the binary on Google Play, for example. Yeah. So that's good to know for the user if he's a technical user. And it's also fair to the open source projects to at least acknowledge that you can compile it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not such for me. All those categories are just categories that allow the provider to keep a backup of all the or a copy of all the backups of
Mm-hmm.
all the wallets of all the users,
Mm-hmm.
and that is just disaster waiting to happen. And I don't want people to think about nuance, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
at least not along this scale, because there might be lucky developers that don't get their computer infected with some backdoor that injects some wallet stealer or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there might be custodians uh, that don't lose your money ever. Yeah, but it's the potential for all the users of one wallet to lose all their funds in one single instance. Like FTX now, who knows who of the users will see any of their money back, or if the money will go all to some lawyers or something. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
these singularities, these when those platforms, those wallets just disappear with all the people's money, this is the thing that I'm worried about. Yeah. And so and so there are products where I'm less worried about than other products, even when it's not so good in the verdict structure.
Mm-hmm.
But but it's a hard criteria. Can the provider empty all the wallets all at once without anybody having a reasonable chance at stopping it? And
Mm-hmm.
if that question is yes, then I don't want it to be slightly green. Yeah. I want people to do self custody. And when they do self custody, I want that they use a tool that is transparent enough so that security researchers could find the back door. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds kind of like you're saying that expressing nuance is okay when you're talking to engineers and developers of wallets who might want to understand the exact criteria and the process that you're going through. But then when you're communicating to an end user, if there's that little bit of risk there, there's still that risk there. And so it's like when you're communicating to the end user, maybe
Yeah, but
nuance is really a bad idea.
the risk doesn't get less when you get up in the scale. That's the problem. Yeah. So of course, a custodial wallet uh, is at the discretion of the custodian, but there are some custodians that put themselves under a regime of a lot of control, so they might be better. And there's others that are total Wild West and don't tell anybody who's actually holding the custody of those funds. And there's closed source products that might internally do a reproducible build so that one engineer checks what the other engineer released, and maybe they even have an external company that does that. Yeah, but there might be other closed source projects that are on purpose closed source to steal the user's funds outside the scrutiny of any security researcher. So the bad apples can hide basically in all categories. Yeah, with the hardware wallets, it's a bit better because there is more checks and balances for how the binary gets on the device. Yeah, but in Android, Google is not helping by have auto updates. Like they originally required the user to trigger the update of all the apps, and now they have it on by default. So whenever an app developer wants to publish a new release, he can do so, and he will get 90% of his users with the new update by the next day. And so even if they are in the reproducible category, they still can steal 90% of the funds of 90% of the users by just pushing an update that doesn't fit into the verdict that they had last, or it might even be reproducible and they publish the code the next day, and nobody is any wiser that there's an issue until somebody actually looks into the code. And that probably happens when people start losing money. And start losing money in that case is that everybody loses all the money all at once. Yeah. So with hardware wallets, that risk is quite different because the hardware wallet doesn't just magically get an update, and many hardware wallets allow the user to check the fingerprint of the binary that's getting updated. I mean, it's getting technically here again, yeah. But these details, these decelerations of the update process, give the security researchers time, and hardware wallets that, for example, by default show the fingerprint, like the digital fingerprint of the binary that is being installed. Yeah, those products expose themselves to a lot of scrutiny, even if 99% of the users don't scrutinize it. Yeah, so if some 1% of the 100,000 users check that the fingerprint is the fingerprint published on the website, and there is another 1 in 100 of those users that checks actually the code, then a rogue update would get caught. Yeah, and this nuance is something that is so horribly hard to get across to the users, and even to many engineers. Yeah, and what World Scrutiny is showing right now is really just the start, because as long as people are not even caring about getting into this reproducible category, yeah, um, all wallets in the Android platform are vulnerable to these exit scams, and I feel bad about pretending that the reproducibility would solve the issue. It's just a required step, and none of the wallets is getting further than that. So I would love to put even the reproducible ones red, but it's not helping with the mission. Yeah.
And Leo, if we were to ask you the question, this process where you simplified the data purely for the purpose of social media. If you were to say like, hey, I'm gonna like really simplify the data for social media or for the website, still feeling like it's ethically correct, what would feel sort of comfortable for you guys if you were to really kind of try to bring that down a bit to yeah, maybe fewer categories or
One, I guess another path, and I know I always kind of go back to the expert opinions and like open it up to more people, and I feel like a lot of these discussions kind of lead there. Um, so if we keep kind of the verdicts as a binary, you know, categorical, reproducible, non-reproducible, but maybe there's people that are doing these reviews that have different methodologies and come to different conclusions. You can say this wallet received 100 reproducible verdicts and 20 non-reproducible verdicts or something, and you just have that ratio can keep the continuous nature of it, but still have the underlying conclusion be binary.
mm-hmm.
I have a question here because I'm an iPhone user. And so basically, wallet scrutiny has no useful information for me, right? It basically says nothing I can do, I cannot have proper security. Do I see that right? Because nothing is
Yes,
reproducible.
right. And it's not only Android wallet, not only Bitcoin wallets. No iPhone app claims to be reproducible because Apple is actively making it impossible. Like if an app from the App Store leaks onto some side-loading website, then it can be attributed to a certain user because they are fingerprinted. So no two installed apps have the same fingerprint. The user cannot know his own app's fingerprint, which would also be, well, getting into details. But yeah, that's a problem on iPhone, and I think that's also fair to say it that way. And as I said, maybe reproducible on Android should also be a red category because it cannot enforce the Play Store to prevent the auto update. Yeah. So to
Yeah.
pretend it is any more secure than any of the other categories
Yeah.
is false advertisement.
But I mean, I'll just be direct here. Then the wallet scrutiny doesn't really help very much if it just says, "Well, you can't trust anything. Sorry, you're screwed one way or another." I mean, there has to be there has to be, there has to be an also security-minded way of looking at this and providing some information where users can get whatever information they need to make an intelligent decision and make an appropriate decision, like something we discuss for Lightning wallets where users never have more than $10, and if you have more money in there than that, the wallet tells you that you maybe should use a different setup or so. For those, maybe people are comfortable using an application that is a little bit less vetted, if that is a negligible amount of money for them. Yeah, I don't know. I understand the hardline point, and I think this is long term. This is absolutely necessary to keep pushing really hard for security and privacy. But in terms of providing users something practical on the website that they can work with in whatever situation they may be, maybe it's like a teenager, and all they have is a iPhone that they got from their parents, an old one or so, and they just have to work with that. What could be provided to them?
Yes, and that's where this expert opinion comes in. Because as I said before, there's many products where I have strong gut feelings the one way or the other. And I would love to express those on the website, but I feel like it makes the whole website vulnerable to attacks from the wallet providers if you talk bad about the one or favor the other, and then it also gets hacked. So this is something where also the preferences diverge. So some experts love the ledger. I don't like it very much, for example, whatever. So the expert opinions would allow for that diversity. And when experts would express their opinion, then the website could also list the products by expert preference, yeah, and not by verdict. And then the verdict could only be used in the way that you suggested. That okay, if it implies self custody, make it explicit so that the user knows that those are the checks or those that are the questions that this product or how do you call it? Like that's the bullet points that it checked, and those are the ones where it failed, but the experts like it anyway, or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I hate that I cannot recommend any product to anybody, and it's
Yeah,
it's uh, it's a
yeah,
sad fact, but
yeah.
it's really that hard.
And Leo, the suggestion from the idea from Tanner with maybe breaking things down into reproducible and non-reproducible, and then maybe next to it sharing like 100 reproducible verdicts and then 20 non-reproducible verdicts. Like, how does that kind of breakdown system feel to you?
That well, if the backup leaks in one of the updates, then the other that don't leak it don't help you much. So if every 2 months there is a bad update, then it could still like copy all the backups to the server, and so yeah, it I see the reproducibility as a will to transparency. So projects that care about reproducibility are by necessity sharing the source code. They are they put some effort, and often it's not needed to put much effort into that, but they have to care to tag their code that matches the version on Google Play in that um, biggest category, and with the hardware wallets, all the same. So this transparency is something that is very much desired for any any scrutiny that those products might get. So it's important, but the ratio is not really helpful because it's very, very few projects that are at any point in time reproducible anyway. So this ratio, yeah, would help to maybe rank them within the verdict of reproducible. If the last version is reproducible, but the other product had 100 reproducible updates in a row, yeah, then this other project might be more interesting for transparency. But then again, I would rather want the expert opinions for that ranking, and not make it a like there are projects that have the timestamp issue, as I said before, or as Tanner said before, I think. So this is something an expert can comment on, and I do in my reviews. I say there is a benign diff, so it's not reproducible but looks good. Yeah, but with an expert opinion, I could put that into a score, and I could agree with other experts, and I could put it first in the ranking because although is not reproducible, it would still be the expert's favorite. Yeah.
I have a question around. You said experts' opinion. If there are experts, are you also? Would you also be one of? Would everyone be an expert, or would there be like special experts and I don't know communal experts, or how would you see the two?
Okay, your comments on my ideas so far for the widget. So the widget is a work in progress. I shared a link to something that uses bit of the technology already, but it's not yet a widget that fits to the wallets. It doesn't work well in wallet scrutiny yet. I tried to get it ready for this call now, but it's well, the idea is that anybody can create an account and leave his opinion, and while scrutiny would have accredited experts, and the rules for being an accredited expert, we would have to look into how to do that. I think we a wallet developer would qualify as an expert, yeah, and to not get Sybil attacked by some project that has 100 contributors, the accredited expert might be one named by the provider. So you create your account and you put your expert opinions all over the place, but these expert opinions would not be visible to the user by default. By default, it would be only the accredited ones, and you would request accreditation, and you would get added to the list as an accredited expert from Wallet Scrutiny. But within the interface of Wallet Scrutiny, the user would be able to also show all the other opinions, the non-expert opinions.
Mhm.
So he would, by default, only see the accredited experts, but have a button like that or checkbox that's on by default, accredited experts only. And if he removes the checkbox, he would get more opinions that might be complete fake, whatever. It's a decentralized network. The Noster is storing those expert opinions. I think it is helpful for transparency that we allow this, and I think spam will for a long time not be an issue there, but the thing could also be refined. Like you could have secondary accreditation sources. Yeah. So Noster is using the concept of followers. So if you would say, okay, I'm not interested in accounts that have no followers, but I'm interested in accounts that are followed by me or followed by me and my follows. Yeah. Something like that could be added to the platform then to refine what are the opinions that the user can see, to open it up to anybody, yeah, and this way escape this problem of editorializing what's shown on the website, which is not helpful for trust.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for that info. So it's an additional layer. It doesn't really affect much of the what's on the site today.
Well, the idea is that I would like to show the tallied up opinions. Like I would allow it to give a thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe a star rating 1 to 10 or something. And the average rating of the accredited experts would be helpful to sort the products and and but for that I would need first to convince people to contribute, yeah. And I'm not yet sure how well received this will be in the community, if people will provide the data that's needed to make this worthwhile thing to look into. But yeah, the plugin would be wherever you see a wallet named, you would also see something from that plugin. You would have some button to get a pop-up to maybe leave your own opinion, and then you would have ways to ask for accreditation or to get into the field of view of the users.
Okay. So in an example, let's say there's Moon Wallet, and by default currently they're unreproducible. They get flagged as red. Let's say Moon Wallet developers show up. What information could they provide to create some type of trust or positive review?
Well, I think the accredited experts would certainly get their affiliation marked. So if the Moon Wallet developer gives a 10-star rating for his product, then this certainly should be marked in their own review. Yeah. But other than that, they could, of course, counter maybe some criticism that other experts would leave about their product. But the idea is that the Moon Wallet developer hopefully would comment on other products to hopefully get other experts to comment on their product. So I don't know yet how to get providers to comment on competitors, and then like it's always tricky to comment on a competitor's product. Maybe you guys have another idea how to have accredited experts, or who would have an incentive to comment there, if it would need like a monetary incentive, like if you tip the reviewers, they get some of the money, or all of the money, or something like that. But yeah, that's all pretty much design process that I'm not yet sure how to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And
It's
I know
this.
we still need to figure out the that whole process. But
Yeah.
is the expert opinions, Leah, do you think it's going to be separate from all the verdicts, or when you create an expert opinion, is a requirement that you have to mark each category and then give a sentiment, or is that a separate process? Is it like we are still going to be the ones that are marking it reproducible or not, and then the expert opinions are just going to be comments, or is it each opinion is a full reevaluation for all the verdicts plus the sentiment?
Expert form would the expert opinions in the
You just froze.
somebody was spam calling me 5 times from 5 different numbers, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know how to bootstrap it, but my current approach would be to keep it as simple as possible, to make it as accessible as possible. So maybe a -101 rating and a comment. The comment could be long, so it might be with markdown, whatever. But if the users just want to leave one line of, or the experts want to leave just one line of comment, then that should be all okay too. But the rating I would use to give every of those wallet icons on the landing page, or if we have them somewhere else, like a little bubble with how many reviews did it get, how many, how is the rating, like whatever the 5.6 stars out of 100 ratings, like something like that. But will take a long time to get to 100 ratings for any of the products.
Right. I just imagine that a lot of the opinions will have differing views on different verdicts. So the ability to add a verdict.
Yeah, the verdicts usually are not disputed. Like there is very few that, like, only the provider in the case of Samurai Wallet argues that they are actually reproducible when all the other experts would say no, they are not. Then there is the case with those that are marked custodial because they are not transparent about certain accounts within the product being custodial. That is something that we have to address in a different way. So yeah, I think we have to introduce a warning about not all the accounts are being non-custodial, but otherwise mark them as or treat them as non-custodial because they have non-custodial accounts in them. And other than that, there is not really any wallets where they dispute the verdict. Like some want to get reevaluated because the reproducibility, like the build instructions were not clear enough at the time we did it. But usually we revisit it, and when we revisit it and it is reproducible, we mark it as reproducible. So, but some are just bitter about, oh, that timestamp, oh, come on, that's reproducible. Well, the criteria for reproducibility is that that it matches every bit. Yeah. And that's just how reproducibility is defined, and it's not that they would argue that all the bits are actually reproducible. They are just arguing about this tiny diff not making the product dangerous. But that's a slippery slope if we make that up to, or open that up to user judgment, then we cannot automate it. And I definitely want to automate the reproducibility testing. And I hope that users understand that non-reproducibility just means that a second look is more important than when it's reproducible, but it doesn't mean that a project is definitely evil. Yeah. So yeah, usually the verdicts are not disputed.
Well, yeah, we can iron out that process in Discord. I definitely don't want to go on too much of a tangent. If there's any other design related stuff you guys want to talk about.
I did have a question with regards to the navigation on the website here. The current website on the homepage, you have the homepage and then methodology and then donate. I was reading one of the reviews from Reddit, and one of the people said it would be great to see the team behind Wallet Scrutiny. So I kind of came up with the idea of adding a bit more of a human element to the home navigation, and keep methodology, keep donate, add in maybe something of about us, and then add in some team photos speaking a little bit about you guys, or you can choose to be anonymous, and then maybe also add in the public interviews on that same page of the about us page, which is currently on the homepage. So I was just curious as to your thoughts about that kind of navigation suggestion. Yeah, just wanted to leave it open to you guys, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, there's a team, like there's authors. There's currently 5 authors listed that could easily be converted into a team page. And I don't know, what's your opinion? I started putting those media links into the project because I thought that people want to understand what this is about, um, and those podcasts or presentations are much more accessible than reading the methodology page, especially if you're maybe a Spanish speaker where there's also Spanish content. But hiding it behind a team page, behind one of the authors, doesn't feel like the right approach. Maybe in an about page and put the list of authors and the media there. So it's at least a one-click distance away and not 2 clicks behind one of the authors.
Yeah.
That could be an idea.
So just keep an about page and then everything on one page so that they don't have to click to go into it.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. That was my question.
But you don't like the media content on the landing page. Do you think it is? It's. I mean, I thought to have at least one of the presentations. Maybe it's now the latest adopting Bitcoin presentation, which was the most relevant one, I think, as also showing there's some relevance to the project on the landing page, or would you put that all secondary and the landing page needs to get cleaner?
What are your thoughts, Christoph?
It might be good to have one. When I see a whole grid of podcasts and videos, I don't really know which one to pick. If you have one that's really concise, that explains things very well, then I would just highlight, feature that one. The media is great. The thing is that people are not always. It takes time. You can't just quickly skim it, and people are not always in a place where they can listen to audio or want to. So I think it's a good thing to have, but most likely people will only check it if they already have, if there was like a paragraph or two that already gave them the basic information, and they decided, well, I'm gonna dedicate my time now to listen to these 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so, and I would just pick the best one. I clicked through some of the links, and one of them, for example, didn't take me to a podcast episode. It was the podcast landing page. So if if that's the first one that I see, then it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, like I said, I would just pick one or two really good ones that explain things very well.
Yeah, I like both of those ideas, the about page and the just highlighting one podcast.
Yeah, I have to hop onto another call in 5 minutes. What do you feel like is the next best thing to do? As you know, I like mocking things up, and I think design can be helpful that way when let's say you mock something up, and then there's discussion. Some things are good, some things are not so good, and then there's another round of mock-ups that try to implement that, and then the conversation can kind of continue to move forward with this back and forth between design and feedback. What is something that you'd like to see tackled, addressed, explored? I'll try to put some notes in here. You can
I
also
would
leave.
hope so. I would hope you guys would comment on the expert opinion and maybe give me some reality check. Is it completely unrealistic to even try, or do you think there is a chance to achieve something, or should it not be experts, or should it be like I don't know. It could also be a source of funding that the opinions get listed by how many tips the review received or something like that. Like, what's your opinion on that? Nobody really commented on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's really hard to get these types of things going, to build this community of expert reviewers. I mean, we know how hard it is in the design community to get designers to design things. It's like a continuous effort, and I'm sure you know as well that if you want people to be very serious about security, it takes time and focus, and people need to be incentivized to do that. And sometimes it's because it's their own project or they really care on the technical side. Sometimes it's like a social element or so. Sometimes it's an incentive mechanism. So the people dynamics there are just a very big thing. I think feedback, commenting system, 10 million of them have been built on the internet. That might even be the easier part, but the human part might be the difficult one. But yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to get a hold of a few like project leads on different wallets, and it's definitely a slow process, but trying to raise awareness of this new process that we want to start to make it more community focused. The only other thing from me, I guess, that I'm curious about is your guys' thoughts on the main wallet navigation. I guess on the landing page, like, is it better to have like a list has some ranking mechanism? I know there's not a straightforward way to do that, but if how it is currently is the best way, or if there's any other thoughts on how to improve that. That's the only thing I would add to that list.
Yeah. Did you see the video that I shared? Hold on, let me just share this Figma file. You can directly take a look. Because I mocked up to just explorations, variations. If you click that Figma link, you'll get directly taken there.
Okay, awesome.
So there are two variations of it, where I just went the extreme way, cut out everything from the landing page, put the wallets at the very top, and then kind of an exposed navigation on the left that gives the user a full overview of all the categories, of all the options, so they understand kind of what these mean. And then a more compact one on the right, where you just have these small expandable filter menus, which, you just get, for that one, you're more likely to just deal with whatever you're provided, kind of the presets. But it's also a little bit less cluttered. So those are just two different ideas where I'm just throwing things out to see what you think and how it looks and how it works. And if you have an account, you can press C and click anywhere to directly leave a comment, if you'd like.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, were there, one of my biggest feedback in shared in the video too was that I get on my Mac, I get to the homepage and Google Play is pre-selected, and I see 8 wallets. 4 of them are either outdated or what is it? There was another one. So it seems like and it says wallets ahead at the top, and the filter is a little bit visually separated. So I didn't initially make the connection. I'm like, okay, so there are only 8 wallets and only 4 of them are current. Doesn't seem like there's a lot on this website. So that was my first impression, just very initial. Of course, when I take a really closer look and browse around, and then I realize there's more to it. That was my initial reaction. So the Google Play filter might not be helping that is selected by default.
Yeah, a all platform filter. I didn't do that because some products are on iPhone and Apple, and maybe some are even on desktop, and so on 3 platforms there, and so yeah, it also gets quite messy. Like, do you want to see the Para tokens and the hardware wallets and everything just mixed together? But maybe it would be better to not show any wallet and let the user pick first. I don't know.
Yeah. So I have to get going, but everyone else, you can feel free to continue the conversation. I just have another meeting right now that I need to hop into.
Cool. I'll wrap up the call.
Thanks all for having me. Oh, I need to stop my recording before I leave, so I'm going to do that real quick.